My friends, my neighbors, all those who have ever felt the warmth of a wet nose or the comforting presence of a loyal companion, I want to talk to you today about a question that reaches deep into the heart of faith and grief. It's the question that comes when the leash hangs empty and the house falls silent. Will we ever see them again? Does the infinite, boundless love of our Creator extend to the gentle souls of the animals that brought such purity and joy into our often complicated human lives? I tell you, the sadness that grips us at that moment of separation is not a small thing. It's a testimony to the quality of the love God put into creation. We look at the great figures of faith, those mighty men who could face down armies and preach to millions. And yet, when they confront the loss of a pet, their eyes fill with the same honest human tears as yours. That grief proves the bond was real, and anything real and pure that originates in love is never, ever ignored by our Heavenly Father. The central truth of our hope is not merely that God saves souls, but that God restores creation. Think of the magnificence of the promise. He is not a God of waste. He is a God of redemption. Do you truly believe that the pure, unconditional affection that flowed from your dog or your cat, a love that taught you about grace and fidelity, was meant to simply vanish? No, that capacity for devotion was an intentional, perfect part of His design, and a God of infinite generosity will surely honor the beautiful, innocent bonds He created. The Scriptures paint a picture of a renewed world, a new earth where harmony reigns, where the lion lies down with the lamb, and where all creation is freed from its suffering. This is a promise of a complete holistic restoration, where sorrow and separation are banished. We cannot dictate the details to the Almighty, but we can trust His character. We can trust that the same divine love that pursued you and rescued your soul is the same divine love that cares for every sparrow, every flower, and every precious creature He made. So dry your tears, but do not forget the love. Do not doubt the immense overflowing generosity of your Father. The perfect love you knew was a gift from Him. Hold on to that memory and rest in the profound certainty that a God who promises to make all things new is far greater, more loving, and more comprehensive in His plan than any sorrow you now feel. He knows your grief, and He is the God of all comfort. Trust Him to honor the beautiful, uncomplicated love you shared. The initial and most vital step toward finding comfort after the loss of an animal companion is the courageous acknowledgement that the grief proves the bond is real. This sorrow is not an insignificant emotional reaction to be suppressed or apologized for. It is an honest, raw, and necessary human response to the rupture of a profound connection. When the great figures of faith, those whose lives were dedicated to eternal pursuits, find their eyes filled with the same honest, deep human tears as any grieving individual, it serves as the ultimate validation. This bond was genuine, the love was pure, and the resulting ache is a testament to the relationship's spiritual validity. The intensity of the sadness we feel after a pet's passing is the precise metric of the quality of the love that existed. Unlike human relationships, which are often layered with complex expectations, negotiations, and conditional terms, the bond with an animal companion is marked by its simplicity and profound loyalty. They offer an unconditional, unwavering affection that asks for nothing but kindness and a shared space. This purity of love acts as a mirror, reflecting the highest ideals of devotion back to us. Therefore, when that reflection is suddenly removed, the emptiness we feel confirms the immense and irreplaceable value the companion held in our daily lives. This recognition that the bond is real and worthy of sorrow is crucial because it allows us to move past any societal pressure to minimize the loss. We must not measure the validity of our grief by the number of words a creature could speak or the complexity of its tasks, but by the depth of the comfort and stability it provided. That silent, steadfast presence, the one that greeted us unfailingly, the one that accepted us without judgment, was a gift. The tears we shed are not a sign of emotional weakness. They are a testimony to the success of a loving relationship that enriched our lives beyond measure. Furthermore, the shared nature of this grief, even by those with immense spiritual and intellectual strength, prevents us from feeling isolated in our mourning. It confirms that the capacity for this kind of love is hardwired into the human soul by the Creator. It proves that the Father designed us for companionship that transcends species, and anything so perfectly designed to teach us about unconditional love cannot be dismissed as accidental or trivial. The grief, painful as it is the final powerful confirmation that the love was authentic, the companionship was precious, and therefore the loss carries a weight that must be honored and openly acknowledged. Acknowledging this reality is the necessary first step toward finding the spiritual solace that only the promises of a loving God can provide. The second essential realization when dealing with the painful sorrow of loss is the humbling truth that human ingenuity reaches its limit precisely when we are most in need of comfort. We live in an age that constantly celebrates its own technological mastery. We can build vast, complex AI systems, we can navigate spacecraft across billions of miles, and we can manipulate the very building blocks of life itself. This constant barrage of human achievement often leads to a subtle but profound belief that given enough time and resources, humanity can solve every problem, including the problem of separation and finality. However, the moment we are confronted with the quiet, crushing finality of death, especially the loss of an animal companion whose love was so pure, the entire edifice of human technology is revealed to be powerless. The greatest minds can master the cosmos and the circuit board, but they are utterly incapable of performing the simplest, most necessary miracle, building a bridge over that final separation. They can measure the chemical processes of grief, but they cannot remove the ache. They can analyze the neural pathways of affection, but they cannot restore the beloved presence. This moment of intellectual and technical humility is not a defeat. It is a vital pivot point toward true, lasting hope. It exposes the inherent futility of relying solely on human solutions for spiritual and existential pain. When even the most brilliant individuals who command global technological empires are reduced to the same common human sorrow, feeling the same tearful longing as any other person, it serves as a powerful reminder that there is a boundary to human power. Our rockets, our algorithms, and our vast libraries of knowledge offer no currency that can purchase back 1 minute of shared time or one instance of comfort for the empty heart. It is precisely at this barrier where human ingenuity fails that we are spiritually compelled to turn our gaze away from the works of man and toward the boundless comfort of divine revelation. The true solace we seek is not found in the next scientific breakthrough, but in the eternal truth of a creator who is not bound by the limitations of time and physics that constrain us. The very failure of human technology to solve the problem of death acts as a powerful deterrent against the spiritual error of idolatry, worshiping our own creations. It humbles the proud and unites all people in a shared, desperate need for a higher power. The great spiritual opportunity in this technological limitation is the freedom it grants us to claim a source of hope that is infinite and unshakable. The comfort we require must be rooted in a power that is infinitely greater, more loving, and more comprehensive than the temporary limited scope of our own human engineering. Only by admitting the limits of our own wisdom can we truly open our hearts to the infinite power and generosity of a God who promises to restore all things. The third profound truth that emerges to comfort the grieving heart is the absolute assurance that divine love is restorative, not wasteful. This principle is not a hopeful speculation. It is an intrinsic element of the Creator's character, which is defined by perfect, extravagant, and eternal love. To suggest that the capacity for devotion, the pure innocence, and the profound, unconditional companionship God placed in these creatures were intended to simply cease to exist or be deemed irrelevant is to fundamentally misunderstand the scope and generosity of the Almighty's plan. We must reject the notion that a God who is both omnipotent and wholly good would allow such a beautiful, uncomplicated form of love to be ultimately meaningless. Do you truly believe that the same divine architect who meticulously designed the cosmos and who clothes the lilies of the field would consider the deep, life-altering affection that flowed from your pet as something disposable? No, that capacity for devotion was an intentional, perfect part of his design, and a God of infinite love will surely honor and incorporate the beautiful, innocent bonds he created into his final, eternal blueprint. The scriptures provide the context for this belief by assuring us that God is a God of redemption and restoration. His plan is not merely to save humanity, but to deliver the entire cosmos from the curse of decay. This vision of a restored creation, the new earth, where harmony reigns and suffering is banished, gives us the logical framework for hope. The promise that the wolf shall dwell with the lamb confirms that God intends to renew the animal kingdom itself, establishing a place of perfect peace where predation and fear no longer exist. If God's ultimate goal is the complete removal of all sorrow and the perfection of joy, then it is an act of great faith and rational spiritual thinking to trust that the creatures he used to fill our lives with such pure joy will be included in that final comprehensive reconciliation. The love we shared with them, being an unburdened reflection of his own unconditional nature, fits seamlessly into the redeemed order. The joy they brought us is not discarded. It is a stored asset, waiting for the time of its participation in the renewed and perfected creation. This truth anchors our hope firmly in the unshakable character of the giver. We are not relying on human knowledge or sentimental wishes, but on the revealed nature of a God who is infinitely greater, more generous, and more loving than our finite minds can grasp. We trust that his restoration is holistic, intended to bring about complete joy for all who love him and all that he loves. The certainty that God's love is not wasteful allows us to transform our grief from a sense of permanent loss into a hopeful waiting for the comprehensive, beautiful fulfillment of his eternal plan. The fourth point of enduring solace for those grieving the loss of a beloved companion is the magnificent truth that the love reflected grace. This conviction elevates the simple, daily interactions we shared with our pets beyond mere affection, establishing them as profound spiritual lessons that taught us about the very nature of God's own redemptive love. The devotion we received from these creatures was not accidental. It was a perfect, uncomplicated manifestation of the grace and fidelity that the Creator extends to us. Grace in its essence is unconditional favor, love given without merit, reward extended without earning. This is precisely the nature of the bond we share with our animal companions. A dog's boundless enthusiasm upon our return, a cat's trusting purr, or a horse's quiet acceptance of our presence is given freely, regardless of our mood, our failures, or our social standing. They offer a constant, steady stream of forgiveness and devotion that acts as a pure daily demonstration of divine patience and acceptance. This reflection of unconditional favor taught us, perhaps more effectively than any sermon, what true, uncomplicated love actually looks like. Furthermore, this love mirrored fidelity. The loyalty of a true companion is absolute, a constant presence that never wavers. This unwavering commitment is a powerful reminder of the fidelity of the Lord, whose promises are always yes and amen. The companion's steadfastness models the kind of enduring, reliable presence we seek in our faith, a surety that never abandons us, regardless of the storms we face. By teaching us about consistency, they were, in their quiet way, preparing our hearts to understand and rely upon the unshakable faithfulness of God. The tears we shed, key point 1, are a testament to the fact that this specific kind of pure love was not wasted. Key point 3. It served a profound didactic purpose in our lives. It was a gift designed to make us better, more compassionate, and more capable of giving and receiving love in its highest form. It softened our hearts, taught us responsibility, and showed us what acceptance truly feels like. Therefore, we find deep comfort in the fact that the relationship was not merely emotional but spiritually instructive. The purity of the affection flowed directly from the source of all love, and its function was to embody grace in a tangible, accessible way. We can trust that the God who deliberately provided this specific, healing kind of love will certainly honor the bond and its profound, positive impact on our souls in his ultimate plan of restoration. The love was a lesson in grace, and the lesson is eternal. The fifth crucial point that brings profound spiritual anchoring during grief is the absolute confidence that our hope is firmly rooted in the concept of the restored cosmos. This is the framework of faith that moves our discussion beyond simple sentimentality and grounds it in the grand, overarching plan of the Almighty. The promise revealed in Scripture is not a partial rescue, but a complete, holistic restoration, a new heaven and a new earth where every aspect of creation is redeemed from the curse of suffering, separation, and decay. When we consider the loss of a beloved animal companion, we must view it through the lens of this cosmic renewal. The promise that God is a God of restoration, key point 3, means his work is comprehensive. It is not limited to mending broken human souls. It extends to the very fabric of the environment, the ecological order, and the relationships between all living things. The prophetic vision of a future where the lion lies down with the lamb and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat is an explicit declaration of peace returning to the natural realm, signaling the end of predatory fear and the establishment of perfect harmony. This vision of the restored cosmos gives us the spiritual certainty we need regarding our companions. If God intends to bring perfect harmony back to the natural world, if he intends to redeem creation itself, it is entirely consistent with his character of extravagant generosity, key point 6, that the pure, loving bonds he allowed us to form with these creatures will be honored within that perfected order. The joy and unconditional love they provided were a reflection of the peace that will reign on the new earth. It is logical to believe that God would preserve the beautiful elements of the old creation within the new. To imagine an eternity where all human sorrow is wiped away, yet the specific pure grief over a faithful companion remains unaddressed, is to assign a limited, almost petty scope to an infinite God. Our hope is based on the biblical promise that he is in the business of making all things new, and this phrase implies completeness and thoroughness. The purity of the love shared, key point 4, is a testament to the divine intention behind the bond. Therefore, the Creator is perfectly capable and supremely motivated to resolve that separation. We place our trust not in the mechanics of reunion, but in the character of the restorer. The restored cosmos is our guarantee that the love was not for this life only, but that it was a foretaste of the perfect, peaceful relationships that await us. This framework allows us to transform our immediate grief into a hopeful patience, knowing that the loss is temporary and the love is eternal, waiting to be fulfilled in the boundless harmony of God's complete and final redemption. The final and most powerful anchor for a grieving heart is the profound imperative to trust in God's extravagant generosity. This is the key that unlocks the door to ultimate peace, as it compels us to rely not on our limited human understanding of what is possible, but on the boundless, overflowing nature of the Creator. We must reject the temptation to project our own cautious, scarcity-minded human economy onto the divine. God is not a God of minimum requirements. He is a God of infinite abundance, a characteristic that promises fullness, wholeness, and complete joy. The essence of this trust is acknowledging that the same divine love that saves the human soul is the divine love that cares for every creature made by his hand. This love is unified and comprehensive. If God's love is extravagant enough to send his Son to redeem a rebellious humanity, it is certainly extravagant enough to honor the pure, innocent, and unconditional love he placed in the animal heart. Key point 4. To doubt this generosity is to diminish the very character of the Almighty. He is the one who satisfies the desire of every living thing, who notes the fall of every sparrow, and who cares for the raven's hatchlings. His compassion extends to all his works. Trusting in this extravagance means confidently believing that God's plan for restoration, key point 4, is holistic and complete. The tears we shed, key point 1, are a direct consequence of a love that was pure and beautiful. The only way for the promise to wipe away every tear to be fully realized is for that beautiful bond to be reconciled. An eternity that restores the cosmos but denies a specific, pure love that taught us fidelity and patience would be an incomplete restoration. The fact that the love existed and was so profound is the ultimate proof of its eternal worth in God's eyes. We are called to embrace the certainty that God's purpose is to bring about complete and utter joy for His creation. This trust requires us to let go of the need to understand the mechanics. We do not need a scientific explanation for how it will happen. We simply need to rely on the character of the giver. We place our hope in the one who is infinitely greater, more loving, and more powerful than our current sorrow. This perspective transforms our grief from a paralyzing finality into a hopeful waiting. We rest in the conviction that the purity of the bond we shared was, by definition, an experience rooted in the divine, and thus its ultimate destiny is secure within the boundless, all-encompassing generosity of the Father's love, which truly knows no limits.